Welcome back to AP World History. We're now going to build off of our last lesson where we looked at the beliefs of Islam and look at the uh, empires that developed from the spread of Islam. The first of these major empires is going to be the Umayyids, who will last about 90 years, from 661 to 750 CE. And they were the first Islamic dynasty, and they'll move the capital from being in Arabia to Damascus in modern-day Syria, and they established a very centralized government with a caliph at the head of it, being uh, from the family, or the ruling family, and then they develop a bureaucracy to help them run the government, and they develop a very strong army that allows them to push very far into the west and conquer most of Spain, and also conquer going all the way over to India and the Indus River. Now, this is a very short empire because it only lasts about 90 years due to corruption. The leaders, the caliphs, were using or being too lavish with their expenses and not living humble lives. And so complaints from the Shia and other just general people in the empire complain, and eventually they get overthrown by what we're going to see as the Abbasid Empire. However, a small group of them will survive and flee to Moorish Spain, and where they will set up another Muslim empire there. So, Moorish Spain, again, like I just said, is the last outpost. It is centered around the city of Cordoba, and for the first part of it, they are very, very tolerant. They bring in Christians, they bring in Jews to all help them run the government, help them create beautiful works of art, and there's a great melding of the cultures together, and it brings a golden age in Spain. Unfortunately, as time goes on and we get to about 1000 CE, things start turning kind of bad, and the Muslims start pushing against the Christians and the Jews in the area, and the Christians start pushing back actually from Europe and start reconquering Spain slowly but surely. And this is known as the Reconquista, and it will end in 1492 when all the Muslims and Jews are kicked out of Spain. So, taking up after the Umayyads, you have the Abbasids, which are a Persian-based empire, and they adopted most of most of the Islamic teachings. They haven't latched on to the Shia branch of Islam yet. That will be later on within a later empire, but they do keep their unique language of Farsi, which keeps them a little bit different from the rest of the Arab world. And they'll set up their capital in Baghdad, which is in modern-day Iraq, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, and that will become their major governmental structure or government center. But it also becomes the major learning center at the University of Baghdad, and they bring in people from all over their empire and from Europe as well to come in and talk and discuss things there. They want it to be a center for learning, and it will be one of the greatest centers of learning and have one of the greatest libraries until the Mongols come about and burn it down when they take over the empire. Now, the reason why they're able to control this empire is because they brought in a group known as the Seljuk Turks, who adopted or converted to Islam, and they set up a very feudalistic control like what we'll see in Europe when we look at Europe during the Middle Ages, in that the reigning monarch or caliph or whomever doesn't have actually much power over the regions, other than the regions say they are allied to him, and they will help him out. And so he has some control over things, but really it's more the nobles or the governors of that region that have most or all the power. And this is also the dynasty that we know is, or that we will see, that fights with the Christians during the Crusades. And as stated just a few seconds ago, they will fall eventually to the invading Mongols. Now, pushing off a little further east, we have the Delhi Sultanate, which is set up by the Turks. They conquered eventually most of India, but they conquered all the way down to Delhi, set up their capital there. and they started converting many Indians to Islam. Mainly, they converted Hindus of lower castes and Buddhists. The upper caste Hindus, the priests, the warriors, um, so the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, or the high-level merchants and skilled workers, do not really want to convert because we're already at the top of our class, and so we want to keep that status while we're going to lose that in converting to Islam, while uh, the lower castes want to get out of that system, and so they convert. Um, Also, at this time, we will have a new religion arise called Sikhism, which combines the ideas of Islam and Hinduism. That should say Hinduism, not Hinduism. And what we have here is that Hinduism or Sikhism becomes a monotheistic religion, but it's got some of those ideas of reincarnation and karma built into it. And they will build off of both those religions, but they'll also be persecuted, unfortunately, by both religions because they're not Hindus and they're not Muslims, and so both sides don't really like them, and so they become a very tough group, very much a warrior culture there to protect themselves. And the next major group, and I think this is the last group we're looking at, is the Ottoman Turks. Actually, nope, we're going to look at West Africa and East Africa too shortly. But the Ottoman Turks are the last major Islamic empire that starts during this time period. They develop in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and they will slowly push the Byzantines back and back and back and back until they're just in Greece and Constantinople. And they will then take over Constantinople and take over the empire. And so we'll reestablish a new empire there that will take over kind of what the Byzantines used to control, as you can see by the territory on the map here. And they'll get most of the population to convert to Islam, and they will reinvigorate the region with trade and bring stability to it where it had lost that stability under the Byzantines. And the practices will be less corrupt, at least for a time, until we get later on, about 500 plus years into the reign, where things start kind of falling apart for the Ottomans, and it becomes a slow decline for them until 1922 and the end of World War I, when they completely fall. And so that's the last of the major empires. Then the last region we'll take a look at is West Africa and East Africa. In West Africa, or in both these, they're adopted. Islam is adopted by because of merchants bringing the ideas and spreading it to those trading centers. And for both these groups, it opens new trading routes, with West Africa gaining access to the Trans-Saharan trade route, and East Africa gaining access to the Indian Ocean trade. Both of these, the faith primarily centers around the cities. In the countryside, most people still follow their traditional religions, whether it's some type of polytheism or animism or whatever it may be. And so one difference is that the Muslims in West Africa will mainly be government advisors because of their education. And that's how they first get in with the Kingdom of Ghana. And then Mali and Songhai will adopt it as part of their religion and have it lead them. And so that will lead to Mansa Musa being one of the greatest rulers and making a Hajj to Mecca, where he brings all of his gold and wealth that almost destroys some of the economies of the cities he visits because he brings so much gold, which is a cool story if you ever have a chance to take a look at it. Another city that will rise in this is known as Timbuktu, which becomes a major trading center on the border of the Sahara Desert. In East Africa, you have major trading cities like Mombasa and Dar es Salaam, and they will develop a new language called Swahili, which is a mix of Islam and the Bantu languages that were present there before. And so all these will bring about new Muslim empires, new Muslim kingdoms that will help spread the faith and make it the largest religion at the time, and today the second largest religion in the world, only next to Christianity.